All right.
Let's try it now.
Got it.
All right.
You sure that's duct tape, bro?
Yeah, they just pulled a piece for me.
Wow. Because it looks like metal shards, not duct tape.
I thought it was metal until he pulled a piece for me, and I was like, "Oh, yep, that's it sticks to my finger more than it does to the trailer." All right.
Oh my goodness.
Huh? Who?
Hey, how you
Mhm.
doing, yo? What's up, Kevana?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Just getting the Bible study verses ready.
Oh, sorry.
And Charles somehow got disconnected.
No, no, no. What you mean disconnected?
Well, it showed you not on under
Really?
participants for a second, yeah.
I'm telling
Gotta
you, bro. T-Mobile don't like me. I'm having one of them days, man. I'm telling you, they don't like me. I'm gonna have to call them after the Bible study. I was gonna call them tomorrow. I'm gonna just go ahead and I'll call them after the study.
I'm trying to remember where we were yesterday. I didn't have a
Uh,
chance to download set it up yet.
I,
Saul was
I'll tell.
great. We saw that. Then David behaved himself wisely.
First
Yeah.
Samuel chapter 18, verse
And then
14.
verse, yeah. It just feels off. You know when something like you know it's right, but it feels off. Feels off to me.
Um, shoot, I wouldn't know why, cause yeah, no. Did you read the last one? Did I read the last? No, yeah, yeah. You
I
read the
read
last one,
last.
explained it. Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised it feels off.
Yeah, it's weird. Oh well. Not like
Kayvon,
it's
okay,
super good.
Kayvon, you're on the study. Okay, that's what's up. Cool.
You're late.
That's what's up. You
Yes.
ready you ready to read all five sections and then give your best explanation? Maybe, maybe not.
She muted herself.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
Oh, what
Oh,
were you
now she
saying? I'm
back.
sorry.
No, I was saying, are you ready to read a couple sections and try to give your best shot on?
I am.
All right, that's what's up.
Oh, you gonna read today?
I am.
It's a brand new day. I'm just playing. All right. All right, and then the final section. Yeah, that's what we'll go for the final. There we go. Now just to double check these. All right. Good. Got them all set up. All right, we still got a couple minutes before we get started. Let's get this set up. Make one call. All right, just 2 more minutes. Oh, it feels so good to be clean. You know, ironically, Charles, by the time we finish this, because this should be pretty quick with this one, it's pretty much straightforward. I should be just over 8 hours on my sleeper. So that works out.
Okay. Are you gonna wait till the 10 and then go, or?
No. I'm gonna go as soon as I get done with that 8 because I'm gonna work out on the way and then I'm gonna use that 2 when I get to the destination. So that way I ain't gotta worry about nothing.
Oh,
I'll
man.
already be there. I'll have the 2 and so I can get to the pickup right afterwards. I was gonna do it with the 7 and the 3, but it ain't work out like that.
All right.
But I gotta make sure I get my workout in today. Yesterday I did the 3 sets of 4. So I was able to do it. I was struggling on that last one. 3 sets of 5 might be where I have to redo the same one tomorrow, but we'll see. Especially because I did it last night at like 10 o'clock or so. So we're not talking about starting at the same time. I'm 4 hours short of the 24-hour that's supposed to. So if not, then tomorrow I'll just do 5 again. But either
You going to
way,
an Anytime Fitness in between?
yeah, I'm gonna go to the one in Yakima
Okay.
because it's got the mall right there. And since I'm only doing the workout portion, well, it depends actually, because there's space both at that one well, no, yeah, I'll go to the one in Yakima because if I go to the one beyond before Yakima, I'm gonna have a long time to be driving after already working out,
Right.
and that might get a little tiresome. All right, it is 5:30. Now then, I think today is my summary, right, Charles? Yesterday
Yup.
was you. All right, so Kivana, since you're willing to read, and the shortest part is gonna be the first 5, so I'll get us started. Then Charles will pray us in, and then I'll do the summary, and then you'll read those first 5 verses.
And we're on chapter 18, verse 14
Yep,
through 18.
yep. And
All
then
right.
Charles, you'll go ahead and go next after that, and then I'll finish us out. All right. Now then, let's go ahead and first off, welcome everybody to the Contextual Christian Church Bible Study. We're about to be starting today in 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse 14. Again, we're going to get started today in 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse 14. And I'll go ahead and have Charles pray us in.
All right. Everybody go ahead and bow your heads if you can. Father, thank you for getting us up and getting us ready for this Bible study as we're about to get into. We finally got past the part of David beating Goliath, and now we're going to start reading what happens after David beating Goliath. Possibility of him becoming the king and how he became the king, a possibility of maybe him seeing a nice woman, or a possibility of other great feats that David does. Either way goes, we're going to gain good lessons out of it, and it should be a doozy. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right, so after we talked last time, we had just finished with David had already slaughtered Goliath, so Goliath was dead. And then now at this point in in chapter 17, what we had finished, we started 18 from verse 1. When we had gotten to it, we started going down the list of how everybody basically felt about David. And we went into, first off, about Jonathan, who loved David so much, he loved him as if his own soul was connected to David. And also explained how, though people take it out of context to try to say it was a homosexual love, there's plenty of other ways it could be loving to that level without having to take it to a sinful level. And then we went into how everybody else felt about him. All the people accepted him, everyone except for one person. And even his own servants accepted David. But Saul refused to accept David because Saul was jealous of David. And Saul was worried about David getting more notoriety than he did. As when they got back, see, Saul, he didn't slay nobody, he didn't kill nobody. But the people, out of him being the king, they started singing. There's like, Saul slayed 1,000 men, basically. But then they backed it up, secondly, with David slayed 1,000 men. So Saul was so mad, it said that he was wroth. Now, for those that don't know, wroth, it means that you're so mad, you're so angry that we could see it on your facial expression. You don't have to speak the words. We know from your expression that you're angry. That's how mad he was. To the point that after we got to verse 10, we saw that an evil spirit from God had came upon Saul. So we see how this is setting up. Saul, he ended up in this position. He had a javelin in his hand, and he tried to kill David with it. He tried to smite him, he tried to hit him against the wall to it. But David was able to avoid him twice in this situation. He was able to get out of the way. And then we ended with it that Saul was afraid of David because he noticed that the Lord was with him and was departing from Saul. So not only did he notice God, the Lord's spirit is no longer with me, but it's specifically with this man I'm trying to kill. And then we got into about how jealousy can allow you to do evil if you don't repent and come back to following God in accordance with his word. And now we're about to start in verse 14. Let me go ahead and get back to it. And then Kivana, go ahead and start in verse 14.
Alrighty, I'm gonna start at First Samuel, chapter 18, verse 14. And I'll give everybody a minute. Alrighty. It says, and David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. And Saul said to David, behold, my elder daughter, Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles.
Valiant, but good try.
Oh,
But valiant.
valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, let not my hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king?
Now remember, when you're given the explanation, the goal is just to explain what's being shown, not all these hidden meanings. At first, I want you just to explain what's being shown. We'll get into the extra connections later on, but we got to get to the point. I don't know what your level is on comprehension. So I want to see where
Okay.
that goes. So just explain what's shown literally word for word in context.
Let me reread it.
No problem. Take your time as you need.
Okay. I need a little help with this one.
All right, let's go verse by verse. Just take it piece by piece. So in verse
Okay.
14, what's happening? And when you're looking for it, think about the 5 W's. Who is involved, or who's talking, or who's talking to who?
Okay.
What is happening? What's the circumstance? What's the situation? When is there a time frame shown? Does it say like the next day or something? Where is there a location given? Is there something happening in a different location? Do they change places? And why? Is there some mentality shown? Is there some reasoning given, some logic, or some background or something? Those are the 5 things you want to look for. And then you want to basically just say it as it is. So let's go through verse 14 first.
Okay. And I would say the who was David,
Mm-hmm.
and then say he behaved himself wisely.
Now, how would you explain? Because we always want to try to explain it like you're talking to a 5-year-old. That way, because you don't want to assume somebody else can understand those words. How would you explain that to be a 5-year-old in your own words?
He was being obedient. He was listening. He was doing what he was told.
I wouldn't say that, because wise in all his ways, that
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't just be obedience, right? You
Okay.
know, a wisdom. Do you know the difference between wisdom, knowledge, and understanding?
No.
Knowledge is knowing the literal information, like 2 + 2 = 5, like the year is 2024, like there are 5 people in this group, give or take. That's the knowledge. Understanding is understanding how that knowledge connects everything. Kivana, you're a female, and Charles and I are 2 men. That would be knowledge. Understanding is we're in a Bible study and we're connected together trying to grow in God. How do we know we're trying to grow in God? Because we're studying the word. So that's understanding not just the facts, having the facts, which is that we're on the Bible study, but understanding the connection. And then wisdom is understanding how it impacts the future, how your actions, how everything's connected, and how it works towards the future.
Oh,
So if David is behaving wisely in all his ways, it's not just in his behavior of like doing right by everybody, right?
mm-hmm.
Because if I'm being wise in all my ways, am I just trying to listen to you? Is that the only way I could be wise? What if
No.
you're trying to kill me? I got to be sneaky too, right? If I'm being wise,
Mm-hmm.
because I know you're trying to do. So I would say, instead of saying wise in all his ways, instead of saying he's being obedient, I would say that he's doing everything fully thought out. He's thinking about everything he does before he does it.
Yeah.
All right, so we got that part. And then what about the other part of 14?
And the Lord was with him.
Mm-hmm. How would you explain that to a 5-year-old?
Mm.
In your own words, I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the Lord was with him, but yeah,
Maybe something along the lines of God has his back.
right, right.
So the reason I don't want you to use the words the Lord was with him is, or repeat what's just been said, even if it's true, is because I need to make sure you understand what's being read. So if all you do is say what's been said instead of rephrasing, I don't know if you understand it or not to be able to help you. Because if you do
Yes, sir.
understand it, I don't need to. But if you don't understand it, then I need to. So the Lord was with him is like the Lord's spirit is with David, and the Lord has David's back. So like
Okay.
when somebody's really enveloped in the spirit, when they're really following, or if God is just protecting somebody, you can tell by the way that life is happening. Um, and they may not even be all right with God. God has protected evil people to set them up to come against his godly people who are doing evil. There's been times that that's happened. So the Lord being with David, if we were to rephrase that, you could say God has his back. Um, God's spirit is inside David. It's in his, like he's with him. You could do it like that too. All right. So we got the first portion in 14. David's being thoughtful. He's thinking about everything before he does it. Nothing is reactionary. He's trying to do everything the right way. And God has his back. God is by his side. Then let's go to 15.
Okay.
Now, do you know what wherefore means?
One moment. Yeah, I
Wherefore,
do.
oh, good.
It's like a conjunction word of, it's so hard to explain it. It's like furthermore and or
Yeah, but if you were to use a word of today to replace it to better understand, what word would you use? Or phrase? You could say a phrase. I'd use a phrase.
let me see. When Saul seen, I would just say he observed.
Yeah, that
If
doesn't
I'm saying it right.
explain the wherefore part. The phrase that I use to explain, like anytime you see the word for,
Uh-huh.
whether it's wherefore, therefore, herefore, it's almost always because of what I told you in the last verse or last section, I'm now telling you this.
Okay.
So because David behaved himself wise in all his ways, and the Lord was with him, now I'm saying when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. Now remember, don't go into hidden meaning because we'll deal with that later. What does it
Okay.
mean? Just in simple terms, what is being said in 15?
I think he was what he's saying is, maybe on the tip of my tongue.
You said what?
When Saul saw that David was doing right, he thought he was doing something wrong. Maybe he was doing something wrong.
I
Or
wouldn't
am
say
I
that because
going into it?
being afraid don't necessarily mean somebody don't got to be doing wrong for you to be afraid of them. Do it.
No.
So try that one more time.
No.
You're close though, but yeah.
When Saul seen David was doing was act well was wisely in his ways, he thought maybe he was doing something, but we can't say wrong. Not wrong. Okay.
Well,
I
like I
need your
said,
help with this
don't
one.
think of hidden meaning. Just what it said. What does it mean to be afraid of someone? You're trying to find the hidden meaning. I just want literal meaning.
He was scared of
There you go.
him.
That's all I wanted. Like I said, the
So,
hidden
so
meaning. I don't know where your level of comprehension is. Based on your answer, I would say no. That you're not quite there yet. But that's why I just want the literal meaning. We'll get over time. We'll get to that level where you're getting those hidden meanings. It took Charles. How long were we studying before I started letting you get those hidden meanings? About a year.
I'd say about 12 months, 12, 13.
Yeah. We got to get used to the comprehension of just what's being said first. Then you'll start to see those hidden meanings and everything after. So just straight up meanings is all we're looking for right now.
okay.
All right. All right. So yeah, 15. Saul saw that David was doing right and he was thinking things through. And that's the thing I would say a little different. I wouldn't just say that he was doing right because remember, if you're being wise, you're not just doing things right. You're thinking things through. Because can you be doing things right and also be unwise?
No.
You sure?
Repeat it again.
Can you be doing things right and still be unwise
Oh
in
yeah.
your behavior?
Yeah.
So exactly. So when you say that doing things right, he behaved himself very wisely. You say you think he's doing things right. Does that actually mean the same thing as he behaved himself very wisely?
No.
Exactly. It's kind of close, but not quite right because you could be an idiot and still be doing things right.
Yeah.
I mean, you got people in business that do this all the time. Their son or daughter don't want nothing to do with the business, and they worked up this whole time to build an empire and everything. Then they give it to their son or daughter that don't even want to be part of it, and then the whole business goes down in flames or gets completely altered to something it wasn't meant to, all because they were trying to do right. They was doing right by their son or daughter, taking care of them, but they wasn't being wise. So even though they were doing right, they were not using wisdom, and the whole business goes down in flames to a certain extent. So being very wise, we got to explain that not as just trying to do right, but also being real thoughtful or thinking things through, not just reacting. So, anyways, at 15, I would say that as Saul saw that David was being real thoughtful, was real thinking things through, and so Saul was scared of him. That's how I will put 15.
Okay.
All right, then let's go ahead to go to 16. Now, keep in mind as you go to 16 on, we got to keep in mind 14 and 15. So from 14 and 15, we have David. If we were to simplify that, David is being real thought out in everything he does. He was thinking everything through, and God was with him. And so Saul was scared of him. And now we go into 16. And keep in mind, don't forget those.
Okay. So I think that one is saying that Israel and Judah loved David because he was thoughtful and he did think things through before doing them.
What do you think it means, though, because he went out and came in before them?
I'm not sure.
All right. Charles, I'll give you a chance before I give the answer.
We're talking about David doing well. I'd have to tread back to what we had read in the previous Bible study about what he did, killing the Philistines, beating the Goliath, all of that.
Well, how does that correlate to he went out and came in before them? Seems kind of irrelevant. If I'm coming
I
out and
thought it
going
was-
in with be in front of with all the people, what am I doing?
I'm thinking about well,
Leading
you're
them.
coming out at there you go.
Sorry.
We say that one
Yeah,
more
you
time?
got. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kivana.
Sorry, I interrupted. I was like, I said leading them.
No, leading would be actually like leading or being in charge. Going out and coming in with before them, well, before them means in front of them. Before means in front of in biblical terms. So if I'm going out and coming in front of everybody, what does that mean? That means that everybody's seeing me on a regular basis. I'm being around the people. So everybody was loving David. All Israel and Judah loved David because he was going out around the people. In other words, he was kicking it with everybody. He was walking around saying what's up to everybody. He wasn't just staying in the kingdom. He wasn't just staying in his castle, so to speak.
The people's
You see
champ.
that?
The sight of all
Not
the
the
people.
people's champ. Yeah, exactly. And not, but I wouldn't say the people's champ, because you could be people's champ and still not be hanging out with people or saying what's up all the time, being around them. Because the people's champ just means that everybody loves you, but that doesn't account for him going out and coming in. But this also, and so keep that in mind, and I'll go into a couple of hidden meanings that after we get through the straight up meanings. There's 2 hidden meanings that we got to talk about from this section so far. And then go ahead in verse 17. Now remember, just straight up meaning, what is it saying?
Okay. And Saul said to David, behold, my elder daughter, so I. I'm just rereading it.
That's fine. Take it piece by piece if you need to. Separate by the commas. So what do we got in the first portion of the comma? We got Saul talking to
Saul
David.
talking to David.
And then
giving him his elder daughter Merab.
yep, and then what does he say in the next comma?
He would give him her as his wife.
Good. Who as his wife?
Give his daughter Merab.
Yeah, Saul is going to give his daughter Merab to David.
To David.
And then what's the next section?
Only to be valiant. Is that?
Valiant.
What?
Do you know what
Valiant
valiant means?
Is that valuable?
Sort of,
Like,
but more in like
essential?
brave, more like courageous.
Okay.
Think like a brave warrior. Be valiant. Be thou valiant for me. In other words, be a brave, strong warrior for me. Then in the next portion,
Fight the Lord's battles. Okay, for Saul. We have Saul. Let not my hand be upon him. When he's saying him, who is he referring to as with him?
apologize. My dad called just now, and I told him to get onto the Bible study. He's already late. Anyways, sorry about that. So, yeah. So we got the first portion. Saul said to David. So he's got Saul telling David, "Here, I'm gonna give you my daughter Merab to be your wife. Here's my only conditions, though. You got to be a brave, courageous warrior for me, and fight the Lord's battles." Now, remember what I said, the word for. Anytime you see the word for, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean? It's like saying because of what I just said. Exactly. So be valiant. So we got to look at what the closest thing to the for is, because that's what it's connected to. So be a brave, courageous warrior for me and fight the Lord's battles. Because of this, Saul said, because Saul said, not because of this, because Saul said, let not my hand be upon him. I'm not going to put my hands on him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. So what does that mean to you?
Saying I'm not gonna do it, but to release him to the Philistines, let them take care of it.
Exactly. I'm not going to be the one to put my hands on him. I'll let the Philistines do that. And then in verse 18.
David said to Saul, so David's telling Saul or asking him, who am I? And what is my life? Or my father's family in Israel? That I should be son-in-law of the king. So basically asking, who am I? What's making me so special that I should be the son-in-law of the king?
That was perfect on 18. Good job. Hey, I gotta congratulate you when you do good, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah, it's clicking, it's coming together. I love it. God is good.
So now for the hidden meanings. All right, from 14, David behaved himself wisely, and the Lord was with him. Now we read, and I told in the summary last time that Saul was trying to kill David, but Saul started freaking out when even after a javelin, he tried to get him twice, he couldn't kill him. So he failed twice. So he was sitting there like, I can't do it. Like he was worried about it. So then in 15, we start going in. So Saul, when he saw that David was wise, David was thinking about everything he doing before he do it. He ain't making no mistakes. Saul was worried about him. Now, why would Saul be worried about David just because David's thinking everything through? Because Saul's goal is to get rid of David, as we talked about. He's trying to set him up. If I got an enemy and I can't trick my enemy, if I can't kill him straight up, and I also can't get him with some sly stuff, my enemy has power over me because I can't get rid of him. So Saul, looking at David as an enemy, is sitting here trying to set him up. That's the first hidden message that we see, because and it's not really hidden when you look at the previous verses and connect it with it, but it is hidden if you don't keep that in mind. Then we go into 16. But all Israel, remember, but we know it's a contradicting thing. So all Israel and Judah loved David. So Saul was worried about David, but everybody else, they loved David. And it says why they loved him. because he went in and out and came in before them. Well, if they love David because of that, why didn't they love Saul because the same? That's a little, it's a, if this, then this must be me. It's like if I tell you, you can't go in this room right here. And if you do, there's going to be consequences. And then you go into that room that I specified. Well, then here comes the consequences. If this, then this. So because David went out and came in before everybody, he was in front of everybody all the time. Because of that was the reason that they loved David. That also tells us that that's something that Saul did not do. You see how that shows that, Kevana?
Yep, I do.
So we know that Saul, from the fact it specifies David did this, and that's the reason they loved him. We know from that that means that Saul didn't do it. So Saul was just staying in his castle, so to speak. He was just staying in his place. He was ruling from afar, while David is sitting there being around everybody. This is also a very big difference between a dictator and a leader. This is where that hidden meaning part where you said about him being a leader, it is partially right, but it's not fully right. Because a leader is only one portion. You see how that? It's not just being a leader, it's also having company, being around people. Leader's too broad. This is more specific. And then we went into 17. So Saul said to David, he's like, bro, look, all right, cool. I'm going to give you my daughter to wife. Just be a brave and courageous warrior for me and fight whatever battles the Lord has for us. But then it says, why? See, that sounds like a great thing, right? It's like, oh man, he's going to give me his wife to be, and I'm going to be a son-in-law to the king. But then it says, for Saul said, let not my hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. So the hidden meaning in that, the third hidden meaning, is that Saul is trying to set David up to fail.
Mm-hmm.
He can't kill him himself. So if he sets him up to fail by putting him as the son-in-law to the king, you're going to put a target on his back, even more than already exists. So if I set him up with this, and we're going to get into more of the setup after this, but we see that Saul is trying to be on some sneak level. Saul trying to set him up like some Karen sitting here complaining to the boss instead of telling you what the problem actually is and trying to deal with it as a grown, mature adult. Then we got into verse 18. David ain't paying no attention to the sneakiness at all. His whole response to Saul offering his daughter after he, and mind you, keep this in mind, Saul just tried to kill him. You try to kill me and then you want to offer me your daughter to be like my wife? And I'm supposed to take that right off, like no problem? It shows the trust. And this is a hidden part shown. It shows the trust that David has in God, not Saul, but God. Because keep in mind, David has already been told by Samuel from God that he's going to be the next king. He's also shown that David has already shown that God is with David. Why am I going to be worried about my life? So I'm going to take it as it is, but David's still humble. So David's sitting there like, well, who am I? What's my life? Or my family? We ain't nobody that I like. Why are you going to make me the son-in-law of the king? Showing his trust in God and his trust in the situation. But here we see that, but we saw David's being wise in all his ways. Does that sound really wise to be sitting here and accepting the daughter-in-law of the king after he just tried to kill you? Not really.
No.
So maybe, and this is a possibility, we know because of that, this is where the hidden comes in, because we know he's being wise and everything, which means thought out. Maybe he is accepting it because he's thinking about the bigger picture. Whatever Saul's plans are, I know they're going to fail because God told me I'm going to be king. So I'm not worried about it, what it is. And maybe through this marriage, God is setting me up. So when you think about it from a religious perspective and not from a fleshly perspective, worldly perspective, David is being wise in this situation. Because also David didn't just straight up accept it. He said, "Who am I?" So we don't fully know the response entirely, but we know that part. So when you think about it from a religious perspective, if God has already informed you and showed you you're set up to be something, then there's nothing that can get between that but your own behavior. So as long as you're doing right and thinking things through, you're going to be exactly where you need to be. That's all the hidden parts that you could tell from the verses, that they're not truly hidden, but they are hidden when you're first starting out and you're just learning how to get context. And then over time, you'll start to notice those things. All right. Anything you want to ask or say before we go to the next section, Kivana?
No, sir.
All right. Dad, I know that you're on. Anything you want to add or say before we get to the next section? Or ask?
No, not right now. Thank you,
All
though.
right. No problem. And Charles?
Not at the moment, no.
All right. Now, I know you came in a little late, Dad, but do you want to read?
Actually, I'm in a pass today. I'll explain to you after.
All right, sounds good. Everything all right? Or do you just want to talk about it afterwards?
No, I'll talk to you about it afterward. Yeah.
No problem. All right, so Charles, go ahead in the second section in verse 19. So 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 19.
All right, verse 19. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds.
1, 2, you failed.
but it came to pass at the time where Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel,
Yeah.
the Mech, if I'm saying that right, it has a
Mechalothite.
K. Dang it, yeah.
Mechalothite.
Mechalothite. There we go, to wife. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David. And they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, commune with David secretly, and say, behold, the king hath delighted me, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David. And David said, seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? So Saul's daughter, he actually was, or she, I said she has been given into.
Charles, there's no transgenders in the Bible.
Stop. Dad didn't think you was gonna do it. She married somebody else. But she still loved David. And Saul's like, oh yeah, we're gonna put that to a plan. We're gonna use you. You know what? We're gonna figure out a way to give my daughter still to David, so then he could be the son-in-law. I need David to be the son-in-law, so then that way, what you talked about earlier, setting him up and all that other stuff. You know what, servants? Go bring the word to David. Go tell him that the servants love him, I love him. Hey, all that stuff in the past, no hard feelings, man. Come on down. Come be the son-in-law. But David responds and it's like, but what? Make it make sense, guys. I'm a poor man. That's already been, not you, but Saul has already said and done a little funny stuff. And I'm a poor man. Make a poor man marrying the king's daughter. Make it make sense. That's like, what's his name? Joseph.
Retry that. Retry that. That was incorrect. Try again for that last portion.
Which part?
I'm a poor man, make it make sense.
Seeing that I'm a poor man and lightly esteemed.
What does it mean to be lightly esteemed? Let's start with the
Lightly,
first portion.
as in. Oh wait, go ahead.
What does esteemed mean? Oh, hold on. Dad, what's up? Go ahead, Dad. Hey, you gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is esteem, or is it like having low esteem about yourself?
Well, that would be low self-esteem, but yes. Esteem is your level of how you're looked at, whether looked at by yourself or looked at by other people.
By
Like
other people?
a guitarist would be lightly esteemed. There, unless he's like a rock band idol,
Gotcha.
then he's heavily esteemed.
Okay.
A preacher might be lightly esteemed. They're looked at as a little bit above.
Okay.
But a pastor or a person who runs an entire church may be heavily esteemed.
Gotcha.
So you meant lightly esteemed as in I have some form of respect, just a little bit though.
Yeah, or honor.
I have some
honor would be better.
I have a little bit of honor. But it did bring up seeing I'm a poor man with a little bit of honor.
But you're forgetting the first portion of what David said. That's where you made your mistake. What's the first portion he says?
Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law?
So what does it mean when he says, seem it to you a light thing?
As in, you make it seem like this is just some little quick, easy marriage situation, not a big deal. You make it seem like a little situation when this isn't a little situation. This is the king's daughter.
Exactly. So you're making it seem like, but how? And then I would say, how are they making it seem like that?
Oh, well, when Saul's servants talk to him and tell him, hey, the servants like you, the servants love you, the king loves you, and the king wants you to be the son-in-law. Giving him those words, this is after the fact Saul tried to kill him. This is after the fact Saul's plotting. This is after the fact that
So
when we read in our last study.
phrase with all that in mind, what would be a better? Sorry for interrupting. What would be a better phrase with that in mind than saying make it make sense? Because that's the problem there, and how you explained it was the part where you said make it make sense. Rephrase that.
After Saul's disrespect, oh man, because that's how I would respond if I was to say I was in his position.
But you remember, when you're putting yourself in, you're not putting yourself in and how you would respond. You're putting yourself in and how are they responding with what they're saying? How would you say those words? But he's not.
After all of the,
You're putting too much of yourself into it.
After the so I'll say this then. After all of the disrespect to Saul, and you guys telling me the servants like me, telling me Saul likes me, and all this other stuff, this isn't a simple situation. This isn't something that you can. This isn't simple. You can't just snap your fingers and just, okay, cool, carry me away. After everything that was done, that we've read about, that we talked about, this isn't a simple situation.
It's a good try, but no. Remember, he took him at his word, what we read from the last one. You're forgetting that part. He's not thinking about the fact that Saul tried to kill him. You would be taking that into account. You got to think about David's response. What was David's response in the part that Kevana read?
Let me go back.
And Kevana and Dad, while he's rereading that, this is a good lesson for you guys too. Keep in mind individual responses. Yes, you personally might feel that betrayal and be sitting there like, bro, what is you talking about? but this is not you in the Bible. This is David in the Bible, or whoever we're reading at the time. And his individual response tells you his mentality.
Oh, wait, are we going back to the same response he had with the armor? Where he thinks
No,
he's not at that, and he's not, he thinks he's not
yeah, he's humble, right?
humble. Yeah, where he hasn't well, I meant with the armor with Saul. Saul gave him the armor, and
No,
it was
in
like
what we just read. I said what Kevana just read. Kevana wasn't
no,
on
no,
for that.
no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the mentality of David, the humbleness of David.
Exactly. Let's go.
I'm
I'll put
not.
it back on the screen. So let me put it back on the screen in verse 18.
Who am I, and what is my life or my father's families in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king?
So is he focused at all on the fact that Saul tried to kill him?
No, he's still thinking about it from the perspective of how could a man a man on the bottom marry the king's daughter, in a
Exactly.
sense.
Now keep that in mind, because remember, we're thinking from David is the one talking, not Saul, and not us. Now keep that same understanding and redo from 23. Because remember, in 20, was it 21? No, 22. How did Saul tell his servants to speak with David?
Well, Saul told the servants to tell David that
No,
the
how did
king,
he tell him this out? In
He said
23, what was the way he said? Go ahead, Dad.
he said to commune with them.
But how? What was the next word?
After he said to commune,
What's the very next word? After the word commune with
yeah,
David.
commune with David secretly.
Secretly. There you go. That's the part you're not taking into account, Charles. He told his servants to tell him this secretly. And I'll give an example in today's day and age where a similar thing might happen. Kivana, have you ever been into a dude and you're not sure if he likes you or not?
Yeah.
Have you had any of your girlfriends try to hype you up in that situation? Not trying to, but they try to hype you up. Maybe someone
Yeah.
got some secret information. Oh,
Mhm.
come on, girl. You know he like, oh, you know, look at the way he look at you. Look at this, look at that. That's what they're doing here. David, come on, bro. You know Saul here for you, bro. He's trying to give you his daughter. Everybody loving you, bro. And he's telling them secretly this. And then David responds with what he says. And David said, seemeth it to you a light thing to be a son-in-law, the king's son-in-law? Seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? So what is David saying there, Charles?
is he not saying what I was talking about earlier about him being
No, because make it
being
make
on the
sense means
bottom?
like,
Oh, no, I
well,
meant being on the, what I was saying about being on the bottom and marrying the king's daughter.
yeah, exactly. That part, yeah, that part. But that's how we can tell it. Remember, we're not talking from Saul's perspective, everybody. We're talking from David. David's response from what Kevana read was, I'm nobody. I can't be the son of the king. I'm a nobody. Very humble. And then here we have, now there's one part that you forgot to brought up, or maybe you did and I didn't hear it. I might have misheard it. Merab was the one that's supposed to be given to David. Instead, he gave her to Adriel.
Yeah, I brought that up earlier.
Okay. So David is in a position like, oh, well, okay, I guess it didn't happen. And that would be the circumstance. But Michal, Saul's other daughter, man, she loved David.
That's what I didn't bring up. The other, because Michal and Merab are two different daughters. So that's
two
the part
different daughters.
I didn't bring up the fact that we're talking about two different. When I brought up Michal loving David, I didn't bring up the fact that that was a whole separate person.
Exactly. So McCall, she a whole different person. And Saul's like, oh yeah, this gonna work out nicely. I don't gotta give him my other daughter, and this daughter, she already loves him anyways. I'm gonna catch him with that. She gonna be a snare to him. A snare is a trap.
Hmm.
He got this. And then he goes like, you know what? I'm gonna send my servants. Still trying to be sneaky. So he tells his servants, go to David, tell him all these things. Like, bro, the king delights in you, and all his servants love you, bro. Look, you gotta become the king's son-in-law, bro. And so Saul it had his servants tell David those words, but he didn't just tell him that, he told him that secretly. So they trying to sneak this info to him. And then David is like, while they're whispering to him, imagine David. So David had a little bit of attitude here, right? And that's another thing, Kavana, when I'm talking about the secret thing. We could tell by how his response came out, David had a little bit of attitude. He was sitting there like, what? Why are you whispering this to me? You think it's something small to be the
Right.
king's son-in-law? You think that's a little thing? I'm just a poor man. I only got a little bit of honor. You think that's something small to be the king's son that you want to whisper in my ear like this? Like I see you use as the example of you, like if there's a guy you like in secret, like your girl sitting here trying to tell him, like, look, like, and let's say this man got a lot of money, he healthy, he good, he trying to put God first. Like, you think it's a small thing to be in a relationship with a godly man? Why are you like make sure like why are you sitting there trying to whisper this to me? Let's figure some things out first and make sure it's all good first. Make sure I'm right. I'm not even worthy yet. Let me get myself right. Don't be sitting there trying to hype me up while I'm not even at that level yet. And now here's the final portion I was going to say before we get to the next portion. There's a lesson in that too. People love to be ready for the gifts that God has for them. Do not sit here and assume that you know more than God. God's plan is in God's time. And that might mean you may not be ready for it. Now, we don't know if we know that God is setting this up for David to be king. We know how it's working out. But at the same time, we know Saul is trying to do evil. So, but there is that lesson. When it's God's time, it's God's time. Don't sit here and say no to something because you feel unready or unworthy. It's God's job to judge you, not you to judge yourself. Your job is just to see, does this get in the way of me following God, or does this give me a better opportunity to follow God? Does this put me in a position of sin, or does it not put me? And if it doesn't, did I pray about it? Did I not pray about it? If I haven't prayed about it, let me pray about it now. If I have prayed about it, I have my answer, move forward. It's not my job to judge myself. And this goes the same for us and our sinful natures. You will not ever be where you want to be until the day that you die, because you will always be striving to not sin if you are truly following, and you will make mistakes. So you don't judge yourself by where you were, and you don't judge yourself by where you will be. You only do the best you can to do right in the moment that you have the ability to do right. Those two lessons are from this shown. And now on to the final portion. And like I said, when there's four or less, we could give people opportunity. Dad, is there anything you want to say before we get to the final section?
No, that not really, but I was gonna say that I've been in a couple of situations where people sort of try to pump me up for a different position at work, and I didn't feel that I was ready for it. So sort of a similar I would say a similar thing.
Yeah. And it worked out at the time, didn't it?
Yeah, it worked out fine. Something else came along that I was more interested in anyway.
Yep. Everything works out how it's supposed to, not on your time, but on God's time. Even before you're
Exactly.
in God. Don't forget that God is working with people before they even get saved.
Yep, that's
All right,
true.
Kevana, anything you want to add or say before we continue?
Just want to say amen on that. It's not your time, it's God's time. And anything outside of his time, whew, good luck.
Yeah. All right, Charles.
No, not at the moment.
All right. Now I'll go ahead and read verse 24. We'll finish out with 29. And the servants of Saul told him, saying, on this manner spake David. And Saul said, thus shall ye say to David, the king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servant told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose and went, and he and his men, and slew the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins, and they gave him the full tale to the king, the full tally to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And Saul knew, and Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David. And Saul became David's enemy continually.
Yikes.
So, right. So right off the bat, we got the servants of Saul. They're telling Saul what David said in his response. And so Saul was like, all right, cool. All right, tell David this. I don't want no money. I don't need nothing outside of irregularity. But you know what? We need some vengeance of the Philistines. So I'll give my daughter Michal to you. And because I gave the other one to another guy, I'll give my daughter Michal to you if you could get 100 foreskins of the Philistines. Because Saul was sitting there like, bro, if I set him up to do this, he's gonna die by the Philistines' hand. I ain't gotta worry about nothing. It's gonna be taken care of. But then David comes, hears these words, and he's like, cool. All right, cool. So you mean to tell me I could still be the son-in-law of the king? And where it says in the other part, and the days were not expired. Now, I could give the answer, but I want to give you guys a chance to answer. Dad first, Kevana second, and then Charles next. What does it mean the days were not expired?
I believe that, excuse me, I believe that means that um, the day, basically, there was no, from the start of them slewing the Philistines until the time they had the foreskins and were on their way back.
Good
The,
try, but no.
no,
Kevana, but good try. Oh, you sound muffled.
I was still reading one more. For a moment. I was rereading it.
Oh, okay. You got to speak that so we know what you're doing. All I heard was you mumble. I thought you was going to be a mumble rapper.
Lord, no.
special version.
I'm taking it as he had more time. It wasn't too late
For what?
for him to hold on. I'm not sure. Come back.
All right, Charles.
And the days were not expired. The only thing I can do is like rephrase it and say, for the week's not over. We got time in these next couple days to get this done.
To get what done?
Oh, get the foreskin. Did it say foreskins? Foreskins, yeah. For David to bring the foreskin. Kill the
No, but
Philistines
good
and get the
try.
foreskins.
I thought you would have gotten it. You got to look at what's, and keep this in mind, everybody. What is the closest thing that is next to it? That's a big hint of what it's talking about. Look at the context. When does the sentence start, Charles?
You're talking about verse 26?
Yeah.
And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law.
And then what's the punctuation after son-in-law?
Semicolon.
So what's the semicolon show? What we talked about?
An added detail.
Exactly, a connected detail. So whatever's going to be after is going to be connected to that.
Right.
And the days were not expired. What was it that pleased David?
The days were not expired to be the king's son-in-law.
Yes. Now, why would he say that? What would that be in reference to?
Oh, that whatever he does, he's still going to be the king's son.
Yep. But why would he think that it might have been expired prior to this?
Oh,
Dad, then Kivana, then Charles.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think he had. He didn't have full trust. I don't think.
No, but good try. It's something we read earlier. Go, Kivana.
I think because they had already given Marab away.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Yes.
He was like, wait,
So
you lose the spot.
exactly. It's like he thought it was on Eminem. You only get one shot. No. So here's the thing. Saul was supposed to give Marab to David. He told him he was
Right.
going to give it. And then instead, he gave it to some other dude. So David was like, all right, I guess I can't become the king's son. It's too late. Then he was like, okay, I'll give him Milcah. Milcah wants to be with him anyways. But David is like, because remember, it's not Saul telling him that he's going to give him Milcah. It's his servants whispering it to him. So he's like, okay, Saul already told me he was going to give me Merab, and then he gave her to somebody else. And then here are these servants telling me, hey, look, you don't understand. Saul's going to give you his other daughter. Everyone loves you. She loves you. You're going to be all right. And David's like, what? You think it's something small to be a son of the king? Why are you sitting there trying to hype me up? He already gave the other daughter away. So he's thinking it's too late. He can't become the son of the king. And then Saul makes this deal. I don't need any money. I don't need a dowry. Give me 100 foreskins of the Philistines to avenge our enemies, the king's enemies, and I'll give you my daughter Milcah to marry. So David's like, not all right, cool. So it's not too late. I can still become a son of the king. All right, sick. That's gonna be awesome. I could be the son of the king still. In other words, it was not expired for him to be able to do it because he had thought, since Saul had given away Merab, that he ain't got the opportunity no more. But now he knows, because he was given the deal, that he does have the opportunity to become a son of a king. That's why he was irritated with the servants before, because they're sitting there trying to hype him up when the daughter was already given away. And so this also goes into another lesson. Do not assume just because one door closes that that's the end of something. You may have plans to become a business owner. You may have plans to get married. You may have plans to be part of some big church. You may have plans to build in with the friendships. Just because one door is closed does not mean it's closed forever. And it doesn't mean that there's not another door available. Dad, you've been single for a long time. and you have some medical problems. Do not assume just because that's the case that you will not find a wife, because if it's in God's will, it'll happen.
Amen.
Giovanna, I don't know your situation, if you're a single mom or if you got your husband or whatever. What is the situation?
Single mom.
All right. So just because you got kids and you're a single mom, that doesn't mean that you're cut off from a future with somebody. You don't know what God's plan is. Just because that first relationship didn't work out. And matter of fact, let's not take that off the table. Who's to say in the future that person isn't going to become a godly man? We just don't know what the future holds. And then Charles, for you and me on the relationship side, every woman we seem to meet seem to be retarded and not worth our time. Does that mean that God doesn't have a wife for us? No, it just means not yet. And then on the business side, we don't know what's going to work out financially, but we know that God has our backs if we're trying to follow him in context. So with all that being said, just like David thought the opportunity was gone, he now has the opportunity again. Don't assume just because one door closes that that's the end. If it is in God's will, it's gonna happen as long as you're being faithful to him. And if it's not in his will, and let's keep this in mind, if it's not in God's will, it's not gonna happen no matter how much you want to. Dad, if you want a wife, but if it's not in God's will, you'll be single. And we got to be accepting of that.
Yep.
Giovanna, you might want, I don't know the situation, but you might want the baby daddy to be the father. Maybe he's not meant to be. Or you might want to find somebody else. Maybe it's just time to be between you and God. You don't know. And then Charles and me, maybe we're meant to stay single and just be leaders of the church. We don't know. So whether it's on the positive of what we want or on the other side, it's not up to us. We pray about it, we leave it in God's hands, and we remain faithful. But if it's not in God's will, it's not going to happen. And if it is in God's will, it is going to happen. So our job is to walk in faith and do the best we can to follow God, because we need to keep in mind also, our goal is not this earth. Our goal is the earth, the heaven and earth afterwards, the new Jerusalem, when we get to heaven. That's the goal. Everything else in this world is a benefit. There's an abundant life, positivity, great. But that's not the goal. The future is. And then, so on to the next portion from 26. So after he did that, David was supposed to only get 100. This man comes back with 200 foreskins. 200. You gonna say that's like, Dad, if I gave you $100 to go invest in something, I gave you $100 and you came back with 2,000.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't ask you for all that. I just asked you for the 100. Just give me 200. That's all I asked for. But you went above and beyond. And this kind of shows also the kind of man David is. He came back with 200 of them. That shows a mentality of always going above and beyond. Let's say, for example, Charles, I know that you are allergic to different forms of nuts. Actually, all forms of nuts, peanuts, everything. If I were to do something cooking-wise, it's one thing to not use peanut oil, not to use any nuts in it. But if I know your favorite food is, let's say, for example, your favorite food is lasagna, which I know it's not, just use it for example, and I know you're allergic to peanuts. You ask me to make you a meal, and just keep in mind your allergies. Not only do I not make you something with peanuts or peanut oil, I make you a lasagna. I didn't just go for the thing that you asked for. I went above and beyond in that situation. So with all that being said, he went above and beyond, and it shows what kind of person he is. And then he gave the full tally, gave it all to the king so that he could become the king's son. If you were trying to show me you were right, like Dad, let's say you were trying to make everything as close as it can be with us. Do you think it would matter more to me that you say what's up every once in a while, or that you were on Bible study more? Which do you think would matter more to me?
I think it would be more Bible study.
Exactly. So what if you just started calling me randomly? Hey, Matt, I just wanted to see if you got some time to talk a little Bible. How do you think that would make me feel?
I would hope that would make you feel good.
Exactly. That would make me ecstatic. Because not only are you on for the regular Bible study at that point, you're bringing up God randomly just to talk about God. I would love that.
Okay.
They
Yeah, definitely.
and so on Kevana, let's say you was trying to think. Oh, let's say you were trying to get hired with the company as a florist. And then but there's not a there you're trying to show yourself out. Yes, of course, you could bring in your resume. You could sit here and do the application, maybe dress well. But if you were to actually instead, you know what, I really want to work at this company and everything, I'd be willing to work as an internship for 6 months just to prove that I could be a part of this and I really want to be. You're showing yourself to be above and beyond what's actually normal, really showing yourself out like that. And then Charles, you want to be a good one. You know what? I got one. Okay, so Charles, you're sitting here, you want to be able to you're not just trying to finance a company, you're actually trying to set up a Christian video game that you really think is going to make some money. So you go to a video game developer, you don't just bring an idea. Like, I think this would be a great idea. You actually develop the game to the point it's playable, and then you show it to them. It's already ready and done. So there is a certain point where we see where somebody gives the bare minimum, and then a point where we see someone going above and beyond in different circumstances and situation because of a goal they're trying to achieve. If there's a, let's say there's a woman I want to talk to towards dating a relationship, I could sit here and say, hey, if you want to, if you don't mind, I would like to try to talk to you to get to know you on maybe a deeper level. Or if I really want to go and be above and beyond, how would you feel about being on Bible study or figure out what she's into? Um, let's say she's really into museums. Get to know her, find out she's into museums. Okay, cool. Well, I know they got this history museum coming up, and it's just temporary, going to be in Vegas from August 10th through the 30th. Would you want to go with me? Now I'm not just asking her out. I'm asking, going above and beyond, going into something that she's interested in. So when there's some goal that we want, we can take this lesson from David himself. Don't just give the bare minimum if there's something you really want. Go above and beyond. See if there's more than you can do than just the minimal. Show yourself out to be more, even if it's from someone that maybe, like with Saul, they should be a little worried, but he's not, because God is setting him up. So just like David is going above and beyond to seek out the things he wants, we all should go above and beyond. If you want to talk to somebody towards relationship, don't sit here and just, oh, I think you kind of cool. Maybe we could talk. No. I want to talk to you. What are you into that maybe we could set up a date? Oh, business. Oh, I think it'd be kind of nice if I set up this business. No, I want to go ahead and I want to do this business with you. Here's how we can do it. Let's get started. You come in with more than a plan or thought and idea, but actual action working towards it. Not just talk, but action and follow through. And then lastly, Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And so Saul knew that the Lord was with David. Now, keep this in mind. Dad, you haven't been on for this. So, David, how many times has David been told or spoken of by Saul that Saul knew that the Lord was with him, of what you've just heard today?
Well, at least 6 times, I think.
Something like that, right? Charles,
Yeah,
how many times have we read that the Lord was with David?
I lost count after 10.
So, hey,
hmm,
Kivana, how many times you think we saw that the Lord was with David?
Today?
Yeah, in general, even if you've read other parts.
I would say at least 9, 10.
Yeah, we've had multiple times that we've seen that the Lord is David. Why does it keep on saying, then Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David? Why do you think, Dad?
I don't know. It's almost like that Saul couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
It's like
perfect.
he's
Saul is in denial.
denial, exactly.
He's sitting here, oh man, man, I guess God is really with this man. And then he gets into another situation. Oh, I'm gonna get him this way. And then he fails. Oh, I guess God is really with this guy. Saul is so focused on his vengeance that he can't see the nose in front of his face. He can't see his hands if he held them in front of his eyes. If we are so focused on our negative emotions or our sinful thoughts, that is all you will ever see. And you can be blinded to facts. David has been escaped from Saul now 3, 4 different ways that were life threatening, even 5 if you include Goliath. And yet Saul is still trying to come against him. As it said, Saul became David's enemy continually. So he continued to do so even after this. What is the sin that you're struggling with? And this is something for self-reflection. What is the sin you're struggling with? And how much focus are you putting on it? See, people think that by focusing on the problems we have, that that'll help us to be able to get rid of it. No, all it does is get you enveloped with it. Charles, I don't know if you have any preparation issues when it comes to planning things out, but you can focus on the fact that you keep lacking preparation, or you can make a plan on a schedule and actually be doing it based on a time frame. Dad, you could sit here and have issues with food and how you plan how you eat and healthiness. And you could say, oh man, I wasn't able to eat good today. Or you could plan ahead and prep and focus on the solution. Kivana, I don't know if you do, but you could have trust issues with people. And you could focus on, well, they might do this, they might do that. Or you could set yourself in a position where it don't matter if they do or not. Instead of focusing on the distrust, I know for myself, I'll never deny the sinful struggles I have. I struggle with pornography. But how much time am I spending watching TV or watching other stuff instead of listening to the Bible, instead of listening to Christian music, instead of talking and focusing on the things of God? See, one of the biggest mistakes that we make as Christians is we don't look at the struggle we have at all and don't admit that we have the struggle, or we get so focused on the struggle that that's all we see. It's just like a child with their parent. When all the parent ever does is discipline the child, they never praise the child, they never tell them when they're doing a good job. If all you ever do is hear that you're doing wrong, then all you're ever gonna do is wrong, because you never were taught what to do that's right. It's not enough to tell someone that they're doing wrong. And yes, you should praise people when doing right, not because they deserve it, because we're supposed to do the right thing, but because if you focus too much on the wrong, then that's all they will see. And that's all we will see. So a little self-reflection from Saul's mistake. Whatever your struggle is, don't focus too much on the struggle. Focus a lot more on the solution, whether it's more time reading the Bible, whether it's more planning and timing out on a schedule, whether it's getting everything nice and easy to where you can set everything up in a wonderful way. Don't focus so much on the struggle that you can't see the solution. And all you are is that struggle. This is the problem with AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, NA, Narcotics Anonymous, SA, Sex Addicts Anonymous. All the problems with these is that when you go up, what is it that they start the conversation with, Dad? Do you know?
Actually, I don't know what they start with these days. They
All
do
right, Charles, do you know?
they used to do a prayer.
Wasn't it a? Oh yeah, I think he just said it. The prayer, or is it the I
No,
have a
I'm talking
problem?
about when they introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Charles, and I struggle with such and such.
No, they don't say I struggle with such and such. Kevana, do you know?
No, I've never been, but just
So the way that they start their introductions, let's say it was Alcoholics Anonymous, they say, "Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm an alcoholic." They don't say I struggle with alcohol. They say I am an alcoholic. You are identifying yourself as the struggle you have. No separation at all. When you selectively focus yourself as the struggle, then you're putting yourself as that instead of focusing yourself as a solution. Like pornography. If I were to do it the way they do it, I would say, "Hi, my name is Matthew, and I'm an addict to porn." Not accurate, but just saying for example's sake. "Hi, my name is Matthew, and I'm a porn addict." Instead of, "Hi, my name is Matthew, and I struggle with pornography." You guys hear the difference in the two? One of them is saying that this struggle is who you are, instead of separating the struggle from the individual, whereas the second one, this is something you're dealing with, but it's not necessarily who you are. So we have to keep in mind with our struggles, no matter what it is, you are not the struggle. You struggle with the struggle, but it is not who you are. So what you give your time to as a majority, that's who you are. Not the mistakes you've made, not the amount of times you slip up, but the effort and change you make. If I lied to someone today, am I technically a liar, Kevana?
yeah,
Yeah, technically.
yeah, you are.
But if I had only lied once and I didn't lie for months, a year or so, am I a liar, Kevana?
That's a hard one. Yeah, I would say yeah.
I would disagree.
You would
Because one
disagree?
choice does not define who you are. Your
Yeah.
path you do does.
Okay.
For example, am I a godly individual if I make one sin? It's still possible.
Yeah.
Versus, am I a godly individual if I live a lifestyle of sin and
No.
not trying to? Exactly. So it's not the one mistake you make, it's the path you choose. So Saul is so afraid and is so focused on David as an enemy, he is going to continually be his problem. So that's that self-reflection, that last lesson for us to take away from this. Don't be so focused on your problem that that's all you can see. Focus on solutions to the problem. And though we will never be fully rid of sin, because we will make mistakes. That's the whole reason that Jesus died for us. But we can get to better levels and we can get better off if we change the way we go about things. But if we don't change the way we go about things, we'll never get to that next level. And then we'll wonder why years down the road, it feels like nothing changed. That's because we didn't change anything for it to change. All right. So that's the end of this section and this reading. And then tomorrow we will be in verse 30. Dad, anything you want to add or say before we pray it out?
No, thank you. It's,
Definitely. Kevana, anything you want to add or say before we pray it out?
No, sir.
All right. Charles, anything you want to say or add before we pray it out?
No.
All right. Then, Charles, why don't you go ahead and pray us out?
All right. Everybody bow your heads. Father, now that we got our lessons for our book, lessons for our mind, and lessons for our heart, I pray that we can put this into other people. I pray that we can put it in our own lives and implement it in ways we need to implement it to make the changes that we need to make for you, of course. Separate from the study, I pray that everyone ends this day on a safe note and and has a good day going into tomorrow. And in Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right. And then, Dad, I know you said you want to talk afterwards. So, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. And, Dad, I'll call you in a second. Talk to you guys
Have a
tomorrow.
good one. Bye.
Definitely.